On this episode of the Neutral Wisdom Podcast, Satanic Warlock Robert Shirley discusses Way of the Warlock number 5 and the subject of creativity with special guest Frankie Hollywood of the band The Melted Chapstix. You are listening to the Neutral Wisdom Podcast, a podcast dedicated to passing on knowledge and experience from a satanic perspective, hosted by Satanic Warlock Robert Shirley.
Greetings and welcome to the Neutral Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Satanic Warlock Robert Shirley, and this episode covers a subject which we highly value in Satanism, that of creativity. Creativity is in itself a ritual where we can manifest our expressions to share with the world. Whether we're speaking of high-level music, art, or literature, or crafting items for selling at local markets, creation and expression is one of the most satanic of activities. Since I started all of my current projects as a result of completing Magister Dr. Robert Johnson's Warlock Academy, it behooves me at this point to cite Way of the Warlock number 5 from the 9 Ways of the Warlock. Warlocks produce rather than pontificate, create rather than crow. Far too many of us these days sit on the couch and stare blankly at a screen for hours on end. Not only is this literally a waste of time in this life, which we only get one of, mind you, but everything you see on a screen is a result of someone else's creativity. Every time you see something online which you think is stupid, you might think to yourself, well, I could have done that better. Well, why aren't you? Use your own creativity to produce something not only for the masses, but for yourself. If that happens to be a better meme, I think that's how the kids say it, then by all means, meme away. Oh, but I'm not creative, you might say. I think we're all creative in some way. You just have to figure out what your own thing is. No matter what you create, no matter how insignificant you think it is, if you've put in an effort and produced, you've contributed, and that's always a start. We do have to be realistic, though. In his essay To a Creative New Year, published December 31st, 2021, Church of Satan magus Peter Gilmore writes, "We must accurately judge our own abilities, then cultivate these talents, so that we may engage the world with what we produce from our minds forged, fired by the black flame within us." That said, I am not going to be selling my drawings and paintings anywhere, since I literally cannot draw a straight line with a ruler. Seriously, it always has a little swoop on the end where I take the pen off the paper. I figured out what my thing is, and luckily for the world, iron ain't it. The following is one of the first blogs I ever wrote, back when my creativity was starting to flow. It's going to be a great jumping off point for today's special guest. This essay is called A Face Made for Radio, How I Choose to Express My Own Creativity. At my age, currently sitting in the middle-aged Generation X demographic, so highly prized by drug companies and life insurance providers, it's safe to say at this point in my life I've been able to accomplish all the goals I've set out for myself. I have a successful career. My wife tells me I'm very happily married. I have a kid in university, bills are paid, yada, yada, yada. But what have I accomplished really? Aside from achieving the American dream, what mark will I leave on the world other than contributing to the carbon footprint and eventually taking up space in some forgotten graveyard somewhere? Up until recently, I had spent a lot of time doing absolutely nothing at all other than working to meet my aforementioned goals. As a Gen Xer, I've witnessed the growth of technology and had become as enslaved by it as the rest of the herd. TV, video games, streaming sites, social media, all dedicated time suckers. I spent my time feeding off of someone else's creativity rather than contributing anything useful to society myself. Through studying Satanism and my studies as a warlock, I came to understand that we must create something. As Satanists, we believe in life after death through fulfillment of the ego. If I create something that will outlast my time on earth, then my ego is fulfilled. My child will have something I created which can be shared with her family, and so on down the line. Or others will have access to my work and hopefully feel something from it. The 5th Way of the Warlock, referenced in the title above, talks about producing and creating. Of course, this is presented as a stark contrast to simply bragging about nothing or speaking for the sake of hearing one's own voice. But again, as with Satanism, we must create. Inspiration to create can be found as close as your own backyard or social circle. I need look no further than my brothers in the Black Guard to see how our philosophies are being applied. One of the brothers is publishing an autobiography. One is starting his own consulting practice. These men are producing and creating as dictated by Way of the Warlock number 5. As such, I've drawn inspiration to be creative myself and to use my time more productively. Some of the ways I express myself through creating are through blogs. Of course, Writing is the most cathartic way to get what's in my head out into a different medium. It's an effective way to share information and express myself to a wider audience. I have neither the desire nor the skills to make YouTube videos, especially with the aforementioned face made for radio. As a lifelong musician, I produce music in a variety of ways. As a solo competitive pipe band drummer, as a bassist and vocalist for a local bar band, I record my own original compositions in which I play all of the instruments, collaborations with other musicians from across the country, and I record commercials and ads for different businesses, including my own. And as far as podcasts, I suppose that speaks for itself. As writer, producer, and host of this very podcast, as well as being a member of the Devil's Salon podcast, I'm able to interact with guests with thoughtful and concise questions. With the Neutral Wisdom podcast, I'm hoping to reach not only the satanic community, but the non-Satanists as well. Our satanic philosophy is so effective that I believe it can be shared in a relatable, anecdotal way so anyone can benefit. I also develop and deliver training seminars on various topics, which will be included in future events and public speaking events. So, I am very busy these days. No more rotting in front of a screen unless it's for maintaining one of my activities. But with that comes the satisfaction that I'm putting something out into the world for myself, something that will last after I'm gone. I also feel like I've accomplished something upon the completion of every task or project. That in itself is gratifying because I know I did not sit and do nothing all day. You might not like what I'm selling. That's okay because not everything's for everyone. Neutral wisdom, remember? Are you able to say the same? Are you producing or creating? Are you satisfying your own ego by putting the unique person that is you out into the world? If not, should you be? Food for thought. Let's pause for a break here. When we come back, we'll welcome rocker Frankie Hollywood of the Melted Chapstix to discuss creativity and his new release, the Satanic Six-Pack.
You are listening to the Neutral Wisdom Podcast. For comments, questions, or suggestions, email information@neutralwisdom.ca.
Handmade, all-natural, botanical perfumes, soaps, and ceremonial incense, sculptures and jewelry to adorn yourself and your other altars. All this and more await you at moonandsunemporium.com. Ritual perfumes and other occult fine art luxuries, created and curated by me, Priestess Sarah Josephine Clark, with tarot readings by Reverend Dr. Dylan Clark. moonandsunemporium.com.
And we are back with the Neutral Wisdom Podcast, and I would love to welcome our special guest who has a lot of great insight into today's topic, a veritable rock star in his own right. Check out his latest release, the Satanic Six-Pack, and a Dunkin' Donuts model. I think I read that right. Please welcome Frankie Hollywood from Boston's very own The Melted Chapstix. Frankie, man, I am so happy to have you here on the podcast today.
I am so grateful for you as well. And, we can't help it. So it's great stuff. So thank you for having me.
No, not at all. We should have a good time. And I think we're going to have a lot of things to talk about, especially creativity. You've got a lot on the go. So I'm anxious for you to share what you've been up to with our listeners. I think before we jump in, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I didn't personally see you until I hit you on social media and we kind of noticed each other there. So let's get all the here's Frankie stuff out of the way. What's your background? How did you become a Satanist? And I got to go back to it. Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, how do I get a gig like that? Like I'm the before picture of the Ozempic ads. So there's got to be room for me somewhere in the Dunkin' campaign. Like
No doubt. No, I'm Frankie Hollywood. I'm from South Boston, which is the Irish section of Boston. Raised Irish Catholic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which means the sex will be kinky. So that's a good thing.
You and George Carlin, right?
Yes, one of my favorites. He explains it all very well. My father, police officer, Boston cop, became a Fed. My mom's a social worker, and she upgraded to a doctor. Love her. And this morning, I actually went to a Waken funeral and saw most of my family. It was really nice to see them. So for me, I speak English, Spanish, and Starbucks. Although I'm a Dunkin's model, I lived in Mexico for a year and started playing music later in life. And I picked up the bass guitar because it only had 4 strings.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I've been sober from alcohol for almost 14 years.
Hey, congratulations.
Very grateful for that. You know, with that, musically, the Melted Chapstix, we came out with the Satanic 6-pack, and that's 6 songs, each has a meaning. And mostly, becoming a Satanist, I was born that way, as they say. But in reading the Satanic Bible, at the point in time being raised Irish Catholic, and then I was an evangelical Christian for years. And why? But through all of that, I was like, with science and then studying Christopher Hitchens, I've seen him debate, Rabbi live. And I wouldn't say God rest his soul, but I was going to see him debate somebody again, but he just had received cancer and passed away shortly afterwards. So there was a lot of questioning. So with studying and reading the Satanic Bible, if you go through the 11 satanic rules of the earth or the 9 satanic sins, you found out like, wow, if you didn't put the word satanic there, which for centuries has been demonized and kept the church in business, and understanding Anton LaVey's codification of the religion, that we are atheists, that we are atheists. And if you think about when I read the sins, stupidity's the first sin. And I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Pretentiousness, self-deceit, don't follow the herd. And my favorite was lack of aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Gene Simmons says, and it goes back to your chat with Magister Robert Johnson about that warlock personification, what you want to be, and you work it out, choosing that rock star. But I also enjoy the point that you brought up about we really need to work on internal Frankie and work these things through to be grounded and learn. And Satanism is study. And so the support from you, Magister Bill M. in Satansplain, which I've listened to all of them. I love looking forward to Satansplain. It just really explains what Satanism really is, as well as the Facebook group. We just have such a support group, and it's a way of life. It's an individual thing. I like to joke it keeps the Jehovah's Witnesses away. I saw these 2 hot Mormon women walking down the street I was with my girlfriend at the time. Do you want to come to church this weekend? Hey, I'm a Satanist. God bless. Don't do that.
I get a lot.
Yeah. And so I love it for myself because it's a very practical way to live for me. It's obviously been misaligned and people may not listen to you. But if you're going to be open-minded, then read the Satanic Bible for yourself and see what's really in there. And then it's on you to decide. One great thing as a former born-again Christian, which is proselytizing and dragging people to church, or even in AA, it's like I'm doing this for myself and I want to make the most of it. And my life philosophy is enjoy the passage of time, whatever we're doing. And if you're in a really crappy job or whatever you're doing, turn that around for yourself. If you're doing mundane tasks, listen to your favorite music. Listen to a podcast that's going to edify you and make you grow.
It sounds like you've done a lot of work on internal Frankie. I love how you relate Satanism back to, wow, this is just based on common sense and common courtesy and common decency. Take the word satanic away from it, and what do you have? You have a really great guideline for just living for yourself as best as you can, because you owe it to yourself, right?
No, absolutely. And Dick Gregory said it very well, the comedian who Hugh Hefner brought to white audiences. And he's an activist. Dick Gregory says 0 to 7, we are marketed to by our parents, what religion we're going to be, what we believe in. My father and I haven't spoken in 2 years because of some of his rants. So if you and I say we're born in Iran, we would mostly speak Farsi and be Muslim. 0 to 12, they say 95% of children are geniuses. And each 5 years, the percentages has dwindled to 5% because of what they want you to be as good employees and not critical thinkers,
right?
Let alone getting your master's, undergrad master's, which is a great thing as well. But that doesn't define us. Are you able to think? And then when you do, it may not go over well with others.
Well, I think that kind of ties into where we are. You know, you're definitely one of the more creative people that I've seen. So obviously you've developed inner Frank and you've harnessed and focused that inner magic. I followed all your social media, your music and your look. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm really dating myself here. But if Axl Rose, Sebastian Bach, and Nikki Sixx were all in a car crash, Frankie would be the result of what the medical profession would be able to stitch back together. And for what it's worth, as an old bugger myself, I love it. It's old school. And one other thing that I have to mention before we came on air, I actually learned how old Frank is, and it terrifies me because let me tell you, if there is a devil, Frankie has made a deal. Holy
Being 1,000
cow.
has been great.
Oh, geez, age. This age, man. This is crazy. I would have never known. Tell me a little bit about how you came to be Frankie Hollywood. I mean, this is a great persona, and you're an entertainer, man. Like, that's what I see when I look at you.
Thank you. I sent a clip of music to my father, the police officer, one time. I said, Dad, what do you think? That guy sucks and he needs a fucking haircut. I go, Dad, that's me. Get a haircut. My mother, the social worker, and God love them, they hate everybody. They go through so much. Mom, what do you think of my music? Well, I really want to say I love the pandemic. And I said, oh, the deaths, Mom? She said, no, you sound better under an N95 mask. I go, well, I swear to you, brother, my parents tried the Russian orphanage experiment with us. They didn't hug us or tell us they loved us till we were 12. With that, ever forward is figure out what you like to do and creativity. So it's working at it, learning how to play the instrument, surrounding myself with fantastic musicians. Also, with that, you just keep going. It's your art, and that's where the genre punk music comes in. They have these growlers that do a certain music. It's our art, and the meditations by Marcus Aurelius have really helped me tremendously. And our friend Jerry Seinfeld, he was interviewed a few months ago, and they said, what's your new thing, Jerry? He said, Stoicism. All the hand-wringing and worry that we do, we're all going to be dead one day, and so am I. So I'm going to continue to do my art. So with that, everybody is going to be forgotten eventually. So let's make our art, continue to do it. And as long as you're enjoying it, that is what matters to me. We had a rehearsal the other night at my drummer's house. Well, it's across the street from, my sister. Her father-in-law passed. She runs through, gives me a hug. So there's a lot of great things that come with it if you're just founded in the fact that you're doing this for yourself and not worrying about the accolades, I'm going to be noticed. It's none of that. You just do it for your self-satisfaction. My mother says, you're so good between songs. You're an entertainer, stuff like that. So I would always encourage people to do their art, period.
What if somebody isn't sure if they're creative or not? There's a lot of people out there that say, oh, I can't do it. And even myself, I wasn't sure I was a creative person. I think we all get sucked into participating in someone else's creativity, like the essay at the top of the program, where we're staring at screens, we're taking in what someone else has created. And what would you say to somebody who isn't sure if they're creative? Should they get out and take the big risks? Should they start smaller? And the big question, sir, is should they be afraid of failing?
Well, my friend, I used to go to his games. His name is Babe Ruth. He played for the Red Sox and then the Yankees. And Babe Ruth said, never be afraid to strike out because the possibility of swinging, you're going to hit that home run. So that's the importance of it. Again, it goes back to when I talk to so many people, do you sing? I'm afraid. Because you've had parents and other people just tell you it's bad, you're bad, it's not going to work for you. So it's actually up to us and like-minded people to just say, hey, I'm going to give this a go. And there's plenty of resources everywhere. YouTube has sort of vocal lessons and doing the cadences that you can do your do-re-mis. Or if you want to learn Immigrant Song by Zeppelin, it's so much easier now with technology to do that. So yeah, they should do it And fear or anxiety is something that is innate within us, but it's just us taking the step, taking small steps. That's the only way you get to your destination. There's no way like, hey, let's complete the album. Well, you haven't written the song yet. So it is steps you take. And once you take them, you will get there. And that's where the visualization comes in, the manifesting, the lesser magic, or even greater magic to an extent, where Paul Stanley said it. I would envision playing in front of 80,000 people, and I did the same thing and end up in a St. Patrick's Day parade, dodging the little fireball nips. I'm sober. And I tell everybody, throw avocados at me, not tomatoes, the tomato stain. Then we're going to make a little dip after, So, yeah, definitely. Really going back. And this is before Buddhism. Nike said, just do it. So I guess that's what we'll do.
Definitely. I think, too, if you surround yourself with people who are better than you technically, as far as technique and in skill, they push you to want to be better. I related, I think in another article I wrote, that I joined a band and they said, so do you sing? I said, nope. They said, well, if you wanted this gig, you do. So I started my singing career. And you want to get the work, you want to improve yourself, you surround yourself with people who inspire you and force you to be better as well. And you mentioned that. You said, I play with some amazing players. You can't stink to be doing this for as long as we have, right? You have to be up to a certain standard and find people that are better than you and aspire to work up to their level.
As my friend Jimmy Driver says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Absolutely. Well, I want to talk about your music, my friend. Before we get into your awesome release, the Satanic Six-Pack, what kind of bands do you usually play in? I know you bill yourself as a punker, but I've seen you do covers of like Sabbath and Ozzy. I also see that you're a multi-instrumentalist because you have some pretty sick-looking guitars. Shout out to Carlino Guitars because those are the best ads I've ever seen. They're always on the phone, but
Eddie, get off the phone.
That's right. I love the fact that they're always on the phone. I love that I'm never buying one from them because I can't afford a 400% markup.
If you use my name, otherwise it's a discount automatically.
I'll tell. Yeah, exactly. But what is your usual music style? Have you done any big gigs? Have I seen you anywhere before and not known it? Have you made a lot of records?
No, actually, with what I've done in the Boston scene is played a ton locally, and then been able to do the St. Patrick's Day parades, which is like 1 million people. And that stuff is fantastic. We are, with a punk band, going to tour. We're going to do 5 nights and then go to Joey Ramone's birthday party in May. We're going to tour with them, which is exciting. Was in a few other bands, and we mix the covers up with the original stuff we've been doing. We have other stuff that we're going to release as well. With Eddie, and all the fun that we have here, he's done work, for Kiss, for Rudy Sarzo, and the podcast that I had that I'm firing up again is called Melted.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that podcast. That's going to be great.
Yeah, Billy Sheehan, Rudy Sarzo, all the guys that played with Kiss, to be able to interview them, that came through Eddie, which is fantastic. And, that's another adage and common sense as well, as my grandmother said. It really costs nothing to be nice. That's how you do it. I look at everybody, they have an invisible backpack on. I don't know what's going on in their life, but I'm not going to make it worse unless they make the mistake of crossing me. And then you end up in a Bustelo can. But, and that's still legal. I didn't do anything. I just put a name on a piece of paper. I said a few words and your town exploded. But for the most part, but that's a great way to live and creatively, because I think nowadays, and as I saw, the guys in Guns N' Roses, they all do side projects. It's not the motley crew, band of brothers, we're in it and there's no one else. But it's nice to be able to collaborate and do different things. And one of the nicest Christian things I did lately was my rhythm guitarist is legally blind. So there was a show at Fenway Park, which was Motley Crue, Poison, Joan Jett. And I said to myself, let me just get these tickets at face value. Let's use Kilroy's card. So we get the card. We get the tickets at face value. We sit down, We're 5 songs in. Kilroy nudges me and says, wow, this is a great show. I go, Kilroy, we're seated behind a beam. I can't see. And me doing the Christian thing, taking you just as a good, kind gesture. And now I'm behind a beam. A little later, my friend Bonnie brought us up front. So it all worked out, but it was hilarious. You know?
So for the first half of the show, you knew what it was like to be Kilroy because you couldn't see shit.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Karma's a bitch, my friend.
I know. I was like, people ask me, how does he play guitar? I said, well, the fretboard's made of Braille, so he's going to be fine.
With his hands. If he was playing it any other way, there'd be a problem. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Hey, shout out to the guys in your band. Who's playing with you right now? People in the local Boston scene, or?
Yes. What's great is too about the collaboration if we need help. Right now on lead guitar, we have Joe Pinot Grigio. He's a killer shredder. We have Kilroy, also known as Dirty Joe Whiskey White, on rhythm, myself on bass. We have Evan Millsman on the drums. He's also with Binge Magic. And then we have John Sorensen. He's a Dane. He wears a Viking helmet. We have a great time together. So just depending on the gigs, we put it together. And one of my stories that Evan shares is the first time that we did a bill together. And he said, we dropped about 8 hits of acid and we thought things were funky until we met you, Frankie. And then our horizons expanded. And another show I did with Binge Magic, I walk up on the stage and I wear these black angel wings, and the lead, Big Money Lee, the lead singer, was like, is Frankie going to come eat us now? Like, can he stop it? So I'm thankful I've never tried that stuff, but my last thrill in life is caffeine. But yeah, I have a really great crew, and a shout out to my producer, Phil Strack, for making the Satanic Six-Pack happen, CJ Jewer, Liam Jewer, Connor Stavely, Torontonian. He played on one of the tracks, fantastic. Chris Ceramitas, local shredder. So that's another thing, and a testimony to me is to be able to facilitate that stuff. And you learn, and there are a lot of great people out there.
Yeah, and it's your use of lesser magic that will bring those people to you, right? As we talk about in the Warlock Academy, charm is when you go to the people. Charisma is when the people come to you. And Frankie Hollywood is freaking dripping with charisma. I feel dirty after talking to him. I'm going to need a shower after
That's usually a third date, but okay.
Yeah, we just skip right to the good stuff, Frank. But I've had so much fun having you here. It's a lot of fun to talk to another musician. What I want to know, I mean, now you've got the Satanic Six-Pack out, you're starting a tour. I would like it known that I supported the tour by buying it the day it came out. Just a little plug for me, but anyway.
Yeah.
What about what you're doing in the future? Do you have any projects coming up? Do you have a website we can check out? Where can people buy the Satanic Six-Pack? And do you have anything interesting on the horizon?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go to my Bandcamp to buy it. The Facebook page is Frankie Hollywood. My Instagram is, I'm shy, it's King Frankie Hollywood.
Very humble, yes.
Melted Chapstix is, the Chapstix is spelled with an X. Spotify as well for Melted with the podcast, and that's where you can buy it. As far as very exciting future project, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I think a nice pairing, as they do with this alcohol, which I'm not allowed to drink anymore, is you take the Satanic Six-Pack and you pair it with the 4 Crown Princes of Hell.
Tell me more. What do you think?
And if there isn't someone better looking to do it, that would be Satanic Warlock Robert Shirley. Starting with my friend from the Deep Blue Sea, Leviathan.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at doing, and I'm super excited about that. And it's in Phil's hands now, and Phil's excited about it, and so is Pinot Grigio. We're going to get that together.
I am so looking forward to it. And for clarification, I reached out to Frank and I said, hey, man, I like your singing. I've got a whole shit ton of music that I don't know what to do with. Want to do something? And boy, I didn't even finish typing the message and you're like, send it. So I'm like, okay, let's go. So yeah, I've submitted the first couple tracks to the producer, Phil Strack, and Phil's been a great guy to work with so far, really accommodating. And when that's coming out, I'm definitely going to make some announcements, but I know that Frankie will be making announcements way more than I will. So
from Carlino Guitars.
Exactly.
Get off the phone, Eddie. Get off the phone and listen to Warlock Shirley now.
Anything else on the horizon, Frank? Or this is it? You're a busy man right now, and you're just going to keep pushing forward and creating and.
As some fantastic people have said, ever forward, ever forward.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's in your personal development, which is important for me, and surrounding myself with fantastic people. And that's the thing I think about what's great about the Church of Satan is from the Satanic Bible to the Satanic Scriptures, a lot of literature to help you realize that you are the center. I'm an atheist. I'm here to grow. It's a mutual admiration society. And what could be better than that? I love that. And it's not to outdo each other, or you're not going to be like-minded with everybody. And that's okay. That's the freedom of it, which is enjoying your own company. But then when you meet fantastic people like yourselves, that's who you hang out with.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I am so grateful. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I think that's going to about wrap it up for this episode of the Neutral Wisdom Podcast. Thanks to everybody for listening. And a huge thank you again to Frankie Hollywood from the Melted Chapstix for being here. Be sure to check out the Satanic Six-Pack and the Melted Chapstix on Facebook. Please drop a like or comment down below. For questions or comments, you can email me directly at my brand new email address, information@neutralwisdom.ca. You can listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Check me out on Facebook under Robert Shirley, and check out Instagram at neutral_wisdom. Until next time, ever forward.
You have been listening to the Neutral Wisdom Podcast. For more information, email us at information.neutralwisdom.ca, Facebook under Robert Shirley, or Instagram at neutral_wisdom. Also, check out the website at neutralwisdom.ca. Program copyright 2024 Devilish Gentleman Enterprises.